So I wanted to kind of just do an introductory video to kind of discuss why I got involved with this land, with the property, what I wanted to do with it. Um, Initially started, I used to, or I still do some, but grew up public land duck hunting in Florida. I've kind of done that my whole life and still enjoy it. I've kind of gotten to the point where the volume of people in the state and the amount of pressure it gets, it's hard to be a weekend warrior, honestly, and that's kind of what I am, unfortunately. With the full-time job, that's not this, obviously. So I was looking for leases initially, and I'd found, an area that was a fish farm, actually, and I asked a realtor if they wanted to perhaps lease that or sell just a portion of their property that was the fish farm, because it was probably about 30, 40 acres. And the realtor said, hey, we got a property that's a wetlands restoration project, which is conservation land, but the idea is to be, a wetlands, and it's actually a little cheaper because it's conservation land. I said, that sounds perfect. Let's look at it. So when I actually went there, it was an orange grove. So it's part of the headwaters of the St. Johns River, which for those who don't know actually flows north. And so it's surrounded by groves, but it also has a reservoir system that used to irrigate the groves. Also feeds in the St. Johns from there when there's too much water. So it's kind of interconnected to that. So they went out, person who owned it before me was a grove owner, and they took the land and leveled it essentially. And then kind of took a leap because, it didn't look much like a wetlands from the get-go. So the first few years were okay. The biggest problem we had was there was a big ditch in the middle of it that was a drainage ditch, and they covered the pipes up, but eventually water finds a way, and that water kind of found its way into those irrigation ditches and would slowly drain the property. So I went back to the government and said, hey, listen, this is a wetlands restoration project, not a pasture restoration project, and we need to do something here. So I actually able to convince them to kind of put some money back in and address that big drainage canal in the middle, which made a huge difference. So last year, that was our first year after we kind of put in all that work and everything, and we actually really got some pretty good hunting out of it. There was a point where we had 1,000 pintails out there, which to me was, in Florida, that was unheard of. We had a decent hunt where we shot a few of them. It was kind of a calm day, and then they kind of ran out of food because we didn't have enough food out there. We kind of ran out of time. It was July when they finished the restoration, so that was our biggest issue. Before it was water. We had some food. We were shooting mottled ducks, occasional teal. Then we had water last year, but we didn't have enough food. So last year, we definitely had a lot more food, but I kind of made the mistake of not opening up enough water. I kind of assumed water would just kind of take care of everything, and it doesn't matter how much water you have. You don't have enough area for the ducks to land in. They're not going to come. The USDA and other things have kind of looked at it, and they said, hemi marsh, which is 50-50, is kind of what you want. So I didn't have that. I kind of thought I could just make little holes and they would come in, and I think it worked okay for teal season. We actually had a pretty good teal season last year, but for regular season it kind of screwed us a little bit. So we had a guy come in and the Marsh Master, which is a kind of like an amphibious, almost looked like a bulldozer. We had the roller chopper on the back and chop it down. We finally started getting some teal. That's why it looks the way it does now. It's a little more open. So that was a mistake I made last year. So this year, I'm going to show some videos of what I'm going to do. We're going to do some spraying late March. My hope is to have it dissed probably within a month after that, so late April, early May, and then spray again. Again, we're controlling for torpedo grass and other things like that just really get overgrown out there and don't allow for open water. So spray it again, whatever comes up. One thing I did notice too is that whenever you disturb the soil, it also has woody succession, or sets back woody succession. So you're not having as much issue with these big, thick, woody stuff. such as Mexican primrose and things like that. So that helps, and then it also really helps introduce your wild millets, as well, barnyard grass, jungle rice, whatever you want to call it, a bunch of different stuff like that. So I'll show some pictures of that too. But so that's the idea: is spray March, April, May, disc again, spray again, and then just kind of a quick disc. And then our areas that we can plant food plots, because you have restrictions, with the USDA of how much you can plant food plot wise if they're non-native seed. Just kind of select those in areas where we knocked out a lot of the invasive stuff, and we're going to plant that, and then hopefully get on a better program with mowing and roller chopping kind of November, or late October. We're going to start pumping around that time too. We're looking at purchasing a pump. I'll give you updates on that. We rented one in the past. I got to get that approved because we're going to put a concrete pad out there with the pump on it, which I think will help because we can keep it at an appropriate level for longer versus just overfilling it at once. So that's kind of the general game plan. It's kind of a passion of mine. I just wanted to share it, and all the people doing this in Florida, that I know of. I know there's a few people out there, but most of the stuff I've looked at online is, Mississippi and Louisiana and things like that. And so, I think this will be, cool just to share and have people give me input, and, maybe they can learn something too. Maybe it's something that other people want to do or have questions about too. So anyway, just for fun. Check it out if you guys are interested. Thanks.